Well, so far the president says there's nothing to worry about. There is a dispute as to whether the drone was in international airspace or in Iranian airspace. They say so, and there might be a dispute about that. But this whole situation is, in my view, fraught with peril. In that, if there's any kind of a kinetic strike by either country, it can quickly escalate into something that would be akin to a war, which in my view would require a new AUMF. But we know that the president doesn't want to go to war with Iran. He has said so. We need to have Iran come to the negotiation table. From the Iranians' viewpoint, I think there is a mistrust of the United States because the president summarily pulled out of the JCPOA, the Iranian nuclear deal. And so I think their perspective is, how are we supposed to believe that the United States is going to keep its word? So we need to create, I think, an environment where both sides, particularly at this point the Iranians, believe that it is time to come to the negotiation table. Apparently it's not that time yet, so miscalculations can happen.
Last night,
I'm very concerned.
On television, the president said that with Iran, there's nothing to worry about. He doesn't worry about a thing. Let me play this for you.
As you look at the geopolitical work up there, Iran, Russia, China, tell me your concerns.
Don't worry about a thing. Everything's under control. The Iran deal that was made by President Obama paid $150 billion, paid $1.8 billion in cash. I terminated that, and Iran is a much different country. I will tell you, much different today than when I took over. When I took over, it looked like there was no stopping them. Right now,
will you say they never get nukes?
But
they
we'll
never
see what
get
happens.
nuclear weapons?
I would say, if I were you, don't worry about a thing.
Now, in fairness, Senator, that was hours earlier, before Iran shot down the drone. But what do you think about the president's message to Americans? Don't worry about a thing.
I would feel much more reassured if we actually had in place a Secretary of Defense who, in the order of Jim Mattis. There are a lot of things that the president says that raises my eyebrows as to whether or not what he's saying is actually truthful or accurate. So there are those concerns. I'm glad that he thinks there's nothing to worry about. Maybe that's his perspective, but I think if you were to talk to perhaps people in the intel community or people Central Command, is that why there's nothing to worry about? Is that why we're sending 1,000 more troops to the Middle East?
Well, I was just handed this statement from CENTCOM, and I'll just read it to you. It says, U.S. Central Command can confirm that a U.S. aircraft was shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile system while operating in international airspace over the Strait of Hormuz at approximately 11:35 p.m. on June 19th, 2019. So according to the Pentagon, this was international airspace. So do you think that this requires some sort of response today beyond a verbal response from the U.S.?
Well, anytime we engage in what I would call a kinetic response, which is basically to attack something, to shoot a missile, something, it can quickly escalate. When either side in this kind of a situation engages in kinetic activity, it could lead very much to, it could lead to an escalation. And that we could end up confronting a situation of war. Let us hope that that's not where we're going or what's going to happen. So miscalculations can happen in a situation like this. Meanwhile, we have a president who says there's nothing to worry about.
You were talking about the fact that we do not have a Secretary of Defense. So the acting Secretary of Defense, as you know, Patrick Shanahan, was caught up in this ugly episode of past domestic violence involving an ex-wife. You know, you voted to confirm him. And your committee, Armed Services, voted to confirm him. So do you bear some responsibility for not having done all the due diligence to figure this out?
The vetting is to be done by the FBI. Clearly, they did not do a thorough vetting. And believe me, the kind of vetting that gets done for somebody who's up for a deputy position apparently is different. And I would say there's a difference in scale. Now, if he was going to be nominated, which it's been withdrawn, to be Secretary of Defense, following somebody like Jim Mattis, particularly, we want to make sure that he's thoroughly vetted. And he was not thoroughly vetted. And this is an administration that does not thoroughly vet the people that they push forward for leadership positions. It's one of the reasons I think that there are so many